The Acolyte's first episode begins 100 years before the Empire rises. We live in a peaceful era, the Galactic Republic and the Jedi Order have flourished for generations without engaging in conflict. But a select group of strong individuals pick up covert force skills. And in her quest for vengeance, one of them, the assassin May, risks being discovered. The action opens in Wedder with the particular assassin, dressed in a robe, searching for Indara, a Jedi Master. She desires an attack from Indara, with all her strength. It's unclear at this point if the others seated at the table are laughing at her performance or the words themselves. May and Indara fight after the invaders are defeated. An innocent bystander is kidnapped by the assassin and thrown from the balcony.
I'm here.
Thank goodness, Indara is able to save her and stop the murder. When the two battle it out, Indara sees May and pulls out her lightsaber. A Jedi never draws her weapon until she is ready to kill, the assassin continues, and then May murders Indara by hurling the other blade at her chest after hurling the first one towards the barkeep, which Indara blocks with her force push.
Whoa, inside voice.
What I do with my days off is none of your business, fella.
Activate the shield immediately.
And, frankly, I'm hurt because...
Couldn't Indara have utilized both hands, really? Returning both blades? I suppose not. May leaves after murdering the Jedi. Next, we crossed across to Osha, the second twin. Let's just go ahead and identify the individuals since, although the teaser for the Acolyte previously hinted at the big twist, the subtitles throughout the show also corroborate it, and we find out during the closing moments. Osha, her robot Pip, and Philic, her co-worker, are on a spacecraft. To put out a fire, they venture into the empty expanse beyond. Out in space, where oxygen is absent, Jord, a Jedi, walks up to meet Osha while she stares at the fire and has glimpses of a younger Osha. They had a history together, and he achieved knighthood 2 years ago. Considering what transpired with Indara, he is here because he doesn't trust her. She joined the Jedi Order when she was 8 years old, and ever since then, she has been grieving for her sister who is still alive. They think Osha killed Indara, and she's surprised that they arrived to this conclusion. But the bartender is also present, and he knows her by name. She is detained and removed. Convicts aboard the prison ship manage to break out, with one of them managing to turn off the electronics and the droids that are in charge of navigating the vessel. You would expect, after all, that they would take security measures before making an arrest. In any case, a scene from Pirates of the Caribbean is repurposed, showing May in jail and unable to free herself while she helplessly reaches out for Pip. Eventually, she succeeds, manages to escape, and heads for the cockpit. May fastens her seatbelt as the spacecraft plummets to a wintry planet, while the other prisoners have managed to flee via escape pods. Next, we travel over to the Jedi Council, where Master Sol and Vernstra greet us. The latter informs us that Osha is being held. There is no indication of when or how far apart the regions are in the moment we switch to the temple, where these prisoners are picked up. The final survivor that Osha managed to save acknowledges that he boarded the final escape pod and departed.
And nostalgia, and both of these emotions.
Prisoner.
I sensed her and took the last escape pod.
Republic dispatched probe droids to survey the...
Alive. If she is guilty...
Be discreet.
After learning that she is still alive, Sol goes to visit Jord. He expresses regret for not bringing Osha in on her own, and they collaborate to locate the lady. As Osha leaves the ship, she and her sister experience a different vision. May swears she killed Indara and that she will kill the others as well. However, Sol reaffirms that everything is a dream, including the fire, which we have now heard about 3 times, and the fact that Osha was the only one who survived. Osha nearly falls down the edge, but the Jedi catch up with him. The two converse, Jord by his side as well. After confirming May's continued survival, Osha takes her into custody. We switch to May as the show comes to an end, and guess what? She is still alive. The least unexpected turn of events in TV history. Could there be an amnesia narrative as well, given the compelling writing style? We'll have to watch and find out. Leslie Headland, a former Harvey Weinstein assistant, has attempted to write a Star Wars series. Based on the first episode, The Acolyte may end up being the worst television program of the year. We get some really nonsensical moments and a well-executed twist involving identical sisters in addition to bad writing and shoddy language. The scene in which Osha attempts to use a space fire extinguisher to put out a fire will go down as one of the greatest illustrations of why the Star Wars brand is so tarnished. This second episode propels the plot forward, with a confrontation between Osha and Sol and his long-lost, presumed dead sister May. It is once again directed by creator and showrunner Leslie Headland from a script by Jason Micallef and Charmaine de Grete. It turns out that May also thought Osha was dead, which comes as a huge shock to all those concerned. Osha purposefully misses a shot that would have prevented May's escape vehicle from pursuing her after their equivocal battle, enabling the vowed Jedi murderer to go to battle another day. As it happens, the 4 Jedi who were on duty on May's homeworld the day her house and family burned are on her assassination list. The group of 4 consists of Inara, who was already killed by one of May's throwing knives, Torben, Dean Charles Chapman, who chose to live a life of silent meditation in retaliation for whatever had happened, Kelnaka, Junas Suotamo, a Wookiee Jedi who now lives in the forest and scares off scavengers with a lightsaber like a Sasquatch, and Sol. May intends to go 4 for 4 with the aid of a weapons smuggler named Kimir, Manny Jacinto, who seems to be a sincere believer in the cause of May's enigmatic master regardless of how he presents himself to the Jedi during their interrogation. In Episode 2, the Acolyte action returns to Olega, where May is assisting a young local in bringing down a robot that is defending a Jedi temple. After breaking in successfully, she finds Jedi Master Torben and tells him the same thing she told Indara. With Torben in a meditative trance, May is unable to break through his force shield this time. She tries to murder him but escapes via the roof as the guards become aware of an intruder. When they return to their ship, Sol informs Vernstra that he thinks May is responsible for the attack on Indara. Vernstra seems to concur, noting that something else happened when Osha was under their care. Convinced that the issue must be resolved quickly and covertly, to avoid giving the impression that the Jedi Order is weak to its adversaries in politics, Sol sets off for Olega, informing Vernstra that he thinks Osha will be of great assistance. Back in Olega, May goes into the neighborhood pharmacy to talk with the proprietor. It soon becomes apparent that Kimir, one of May's supporters, has taken over as the owner. May lets out her aggravation at not being able to murder Torben, implying that the Master wants her to kill Indara, Torben, Kelnaka, and Sol, the 4 Jedi stationed on her home planet of Brenock, while carrying out a kill without the use of a weapon. After buying Kimir off, he gives May a lethal potion, and May leaves for the temple. Yord isn't pleased with their strategy, but when they go to the Olega temple, they question the guard about what went wrong. Once more, the youthful resident names Osha as the one who made the payment, and Sol requests to talk with Torben. Although the guard claims Torben hasn't spoken in 10 years, Sol is certain he will speak for him. May arrives first, and by the time the gang discovers him, he has passed away. Telling May he's been waiting for her, Torben took the potion on his own initiative after receiving a warning. When the body is discovered with Osha, it raises questions, but Yord swiftly follows her and claims she is innocent. Osha acknowledges that the trace of poison was something she and her sister were trained to use on their country, despite the fact that there was no indication of a battle. The gang is trying to think of a way to intercept May, who they know is still in the city, now that they have lost a second Jedi. The temple guards notice that Kimir isn't their typical drug dealer, so they stake him out. Following some discussion, they decide to record Kimir's knowledge of May's scheme and force him to confess by sending Osha to the pharmacy in her sister's stead. As Osha executes the plan, Yord and Sol realize she is a fraud right before Osha is exposed. Kimir asserts that he is unaware of May's trainer or co-workers. He claims he can manufacture anything they desire for the proper price, but if they want to capture May, they need to return that same evening. Osha is all for removing May, but Sol gives hope by stating that he wants to talk to May directly. May is told by Sol that she is not allowed to be at the sting because she wants retribution. Instead, Jetski has the ship set and poised, and Yord is on watch. May and Sol get into a brawl as soon as they go out onto the street. May doesn't genuinely know who taught her, so even if she wanted to, she couldn't tell anyone, according to Sol, who attempts to read May's thoughts. May finds herself surrounded against the Jedi when Yord manages to intercept a knife that is headed for Sol. Jetski makes her formal arrest from the ship, and Sol informs May that Osha is still alive. She doesn't believe him, so she uses her magic to conjure up a sand cloud and vanishes within it. After learning about the situation from her pit droid, Osha departs the ship to look for May. When May finally finds her, she is astounded to discover Osha aiming a revolver that Sol had earlier given her at her sister. Uncertain whether on purpose, Osha misses, sending May running into an adjacent street. May manages to reach Kimir while the apothecary is the focus of the temple guard's attention. She tells him that she should murder him for betraying her, but Kimir has other ideas. He intends to flee to an alleged Wookiee Jedi outpost. The Acolyte cuts to two adventurers who stumble across an abandoned ship in Kofar. The two find an unreadable sign and assume they may examine it for components. Jedi Master Kelnacker, a Wookiee, seems to assault the two at the same time.
Twin sister.
Her name is May.
Another incident.
Torben, Kelnaka, and...
Hey, look here. Let it go, May. Can we see here a little? I'm with you. And us too.
How many?
Outside the fortress walls.
The rules of.
Little girls who run away from home.
Mama!
Don't you think so, Coral? For our Coven. Speak your mind, Coral.
A firm hand.
Of existence. Wield to others. And tonight, at the ceremony, girls. Excellent, May.
We begin in the past on the planet Brenock, 16 years before the events of the two-part premiere. The Earth is lush and green, with vast woods teeming with species. We see a young Osha examining a butterfly-like creature beneath a bunta tree. She utilizes the Force to momentarily retain it in the air before releasing it. It flaps its wings briefly before halting again, this time frozen by her twin sister May's Force abilities. Osha shouts out to her, prompting May to release the monster. May claims she always seeks for Osha under the bunta tree and cautions that it is dangerous. Osha says only if someone eats it. May freezes another monster with the Force, prompting Osha to reprimand her sister. Osha reveals she fled away because she did not want to participate in the ascension ritual. May encourages her not to worry since they will do it together. On the way back, the girls are confronted by a Zabrak woman named Mother Coral, who chastises them for violating the regulations of leaving their castle walls. She takes the girls back, claiming it is for their safety. Jedi Master Sol observes the group leave from a distance in the woods. Osha, May, and Coral return to their lively town, where the girls are greeted cordially, bowed to, and given presents. Mother Coral promises they can enjoy delights like spice cream after the ascension ritual. Mother Anasea, the girls' mother, agrees to let them have the snacks. She sends the girls out to their training. Coral tells Anasea that the females are slipping away again, and they are both concerned about the visiting Jedi. They assume the Jedi are further inland, ignorant of Sol in the jungle. Coral is concerned about the safety of their coven, as Osha regularly sneaks out. She tells Anasea to be more forceful because the twins are not typical youngsters. Anasea later gives a lecture about the Force. However, she refers to it as the thread, and it is what holds everything together. She criticizes individuals who utilize the thread as a Force power. It's extremely similar to the path of the open hand, more information here. The thread connects individuals to their destiny and to one another. Anastasia demonstrates the thread before informing Osha and May that their ascension ceremony would be filled with the strength of many. However, she is interrupted when the females begin to argue. Their mother pushes them with the force and tells them to resist. May succeeds, while Osha fails. Coral criticizes Osha for this. There is a sudden rumbling noise outside the room. Coral rushes to check what it is as Anastasia sends the girls to their rooms. The girls sit with their mother, and Osha eventually informs Anastasia that she does not want to undergo the ascension, which is how they become witches. Their mother brings the girls' hands together and explains that the ascension is about journeying through fear. They must give up a portion of themselves to become the power of many rather than the power of one. Anastasia warns Osha that the galaxy does not accept witches like them and directs him to another route. Later that night, two servants prepare Osha and May for the ascension. Osha and May argue again because she refuses to show her sister her sketchbook. Osha does not wish to do anything with her sister. She is reluctant to divulge everything. They do not share the same identity. Osha mentions that they are the only children here, which causes the attendants assisting them to halt and exchange glances. Osha is curious about what lies beyond Brenock, but May claims she has all she requires right here. It is now time to begin the ceremony. Coral leads a group of witches in the ceremony until Mother Anastasia appears and moves through the gathering. Since their coven was banished, this is the first ascension ceremony. These ladies were seen as having evil power, and they were persecuted. Their coven came alive with the twins' birth. To take control of their destiny, Osha and May appear before their coven. Together, the ladies chant, drawing strength from the force. May is blessed with power and has her face marked by Anastasia as she delivers her vows to their coven. The rise of May is finished. Osha, on the other hand, falters and hesitates when it comes time for her vows. The ritual is cut short before Anastasia can give Osha her power. It's the arrival of the Jedi. To keep the girls safe from the Jedi, the witches have surrounded them. Anastasia orders her coven members to put down their weapons so she can personally welcome the Jedi. She warns against using violence. Sol, Indara, Torben, and Kelnaka, who May is chasing 16 years later, arrive as the four Jedi. Greeting the witches, Indara introduces Torben as her Padawan and herself, Sol, and Kelnaka as masters. Anastasia doesn't think the Jedi when she states that they believe the planet to be deserted. Indara worries that these witches are educating kids. She begins by quoting Republic legislation. Anastasia also doesn't hesitate to remind out that since Brenock is not a member of the Republic, it is not bound by its rules. Coral reiterates that there aren't any kids present. Osha wants to see the Jedi's robes and sabers, so he creeps forward to catch a peek during this. Kelnaka tells his friends that he can smell the chicks. Indara cries out for them to emerge. Osha emerges ahead of the Jedi and approaches Sol. They request to meet May, who then comes out with Anastasia's blessing. May had a mark from the ascension ritual on her forehead, which Sol notices was absent this morning. Coral discovers they have been surveilled. The witches scream at the Jedi, accusing him of attempting to kidnap their offspring. After taking off his lightsaber, Sol gives it to Osha. He states that he believes she would be a skilled Jedi. Osha turns to her mother and says she wants to go with him. Torben collapses to the ground as darkness engulfs his eyes and turns them completely black. If the Jedi don't leave, Anastasia threatens to kill him. Osha begs her mother to allow her to demonstrate her abilities to the Jedi. Indara requests permission from Anastasia to test Osha at the very least. Torben is released by Anastasia, who also promises to bring Osha to the Jedi the next day. Anastasia consents to Sol's wish for May as well. The Jedi then depart. Anastasia meets with her advisors later that evening. Anastasia believes the Jedi should test the females, while Coral wants to attack them. Coral is fiercely opposed to this notion, but Anastasia asserts that the females will be put to the test and that she has the last say. Coral retorts, saying that Anastasia had produced the females inside of her. She worries about what may occur if the Jedi found out how Anastasia actually created the girls. Their elder, Nasa, interrupts them. If the girls pass the test, the old woman adds, the Coven loses them. They have to fail the Jedi's exam if they want the females to stay. Anastasia instructs the girls to deliberately fail the Jedi exam the following day. In order to keep them close to their moms and one another, May instructs her sister to carry out the task. Osha claims Jedis are excellent and want to be one. This isn't about bad or good, Anastasia declares. This has to do with power and who gets to utilize it. Coral arrives to collect them and bring the girls to their ship's Jedi camp. Before they arrive, May makes Osha vow and orders her to lie at all costs. Osha witnesses Kelnacker fixing a speeder as May is being tested. She walks over to talk to the Wookiee. However, Torben arrives for Osha after May completes her test. As soon as the Padawan takes her blood sample inside, she questions him about his lightsaber. After that, Sol and Indara start her exam. It's similar to the Jedi Council exam Anakin Skywalker did in Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, when he had to identify the pictures on a screen he couldn't see. In the first image, Osha lies, and Sol responds by lying as well, claiming to have the correct answer. They repeat this on the second response, and Osha unintentionally reveals that she is aware that Sol is lying. As he leads her aside, Sol explains to her how the Jedi discovered him. Although he recognizes her uniqueness, he is afraid to part from her family. When he was tested at the age of 4, he was as well. She's intrigued because there are so many more kids out there, and he discovered more kids just like them. She has only ever been around her sister's kids. Her goal is to become a Jedi, she informs Sol. She is unable to look at May after that since she knows what occurred. The twins talk to their mothers that evening. Osha argues that what she did was justified and justifies her conduct. Coral is furious at May and puts the blame on Sol and his mind games. At last, Osha admits to them the truth. She wants to travel the galaxy, live her own life free from May, and become a Jedi. She has no desire to become a witch. Coral had to remove an enraged May outside before she can choke her sister. Osha now extends her apology to her mother. Osha is then given the option to draw the thread when Anastasia stops her. It will be Osha's route to follow, but she will never see her family again. Osha declares her desire to become a Jedi while giving her mother a hug. Anastasia still needs to talk to her advisors, but she will bring Osha's wishes up during the conversation. She bids Osha farewell. Osha packs her belongings in her room in preparation for her departure. When May shows there, she says her sister is unable to go. Osha's now stranded there. May responds by threatening to murder Osha before she can depart. May grabs Osha's sketchbook and leaves the room, keeping Osha inside. Osha's only way out is through the door, which May lights on fire and utilizes to ignite. Osha escapes the chamber by crawling down the vents, leading her into a passage at the rear. As the fire spreads to the mechanical portion of the stronghold their house is constructed inside, she can hear the witches screaming all around her. Just as an explosion occurs close to her, she spots May. It separates the girls by removing a portion of a bridge. Declaring their mother dead, May holds Osha responsible for the whole situation. Unexpectedly, Sol dashes to find the two females. When the bridge falls, Sol jumps off. May tumbles into the abyss below as he grabs hold of Osha's hand. The two of them escape the flames after he helps Osha to safety. The witches are dead and scattered all around the building, their bodies laying on the ground. Osha screams for her mother as soon as she sees her body. As their coven burns, Sol pulls her away from the horror and into safety. Later, on the Jedi's ship, Osha calls for her mother as she wakes up. She is calmed by Torben, Indara, Sol, and Kelnacker. Sol informs her that everything was destroyed by May's fire. Osha starts to grieve for her now lost family. He extends an invitation to become her Padawan. She clings to Sol in an embrace while crying, and he assures her that she won't experience this again. As the episode comes to a close, May is searching beneath the bunter tree for her missing sister.
Osha has a twin sister.
When they
She wants to kill 4 Jedi.
started a fire that killed
Weapon and please the master.
Yet subtle. Maximize. That's our time.
Bye. You owe my innocence. Clear my name. Even if I failed to stop her.
Between the two of you.
Someone must look you up. And we'll go to a canteen.
Foot in these forests. You need me.
There's 3 hours of sunlight left.
Yet there is skill there. It's absurd.
Discipline.
Yet.
On planet when she was a child.
We must alert the High Council.
It's to learn who trained her. This meeting is adjourned.
I did, as soon as saw fall.
Fit here.
May's objective is
Plan. A plan.
and hold a neutral line.
How do you kill a Jedi? Or is that you have to kill the Wookiee with
I've never seen his face. I believe my sister's Jedi scum.
Find that one Jedi Master. What was it?
I'm glad we got you serviced.
I went to find you, and Jack is
To rejoin the Jedi?
well.
I can't.
Come. They will allow the part of her that loves you.
Bar warning transmissions. Any questions?
It's mine now.
Well, it's actually the property.
Can
Okay, well, if you're upset, I'm on this that May can be saved.
Master
Be able to do it.
Osha has been your wound. Maybe.
volume. We don't know.
The story begins on the planet Kofar, where Master Kelnacker is making his way back to his spacecraft, which is embedded in a verdant forest. After preparing dinner, he continues with his tasks. However, there are spiral designs on his home's walls that resemble Mother Anastaea's marks from Destiny, Episode 3. We resume our story with Padawan Jetski Lon in saber training back on Coruscant. She and the other Padawans are observed by Osha. Just to remind everyone, Osha's previous teacher before she left the Jedi Order was Sol, Jetski's master. After the lecture, Jetski heads over to see Osha. She has come to bid the Padawan farewell and express her gratitude to Jetski for helping to locate her twin sister, May, and clear Osha's name. Though Osha responds that it's the Jedi's fault, Jetski assumed he would have stayed until they at least got May. Osha states unequivocally that she is not a Jedi. She can't be the one to bring May in, even if she is grieving the time she missed with her sister. She also finds it difficult to bid her old master Sol farewell. Back on Kofar, May and her shady but eccentric partner in crime Kimir come ashore on a ship in the forest. Saying that not even bounty hunters will venture into the forest because Kofar is largely unexplored, he stops May from racing off into it. But Kimir had been here before, and in the vast, terrifying forests, where animals are howling, he happened to discover Kelnacker searching for a Jedi to save her master. Nevertheless, as Kimir trips over his own backpack, May finds hard to believe. Kimir corrects her, stating that it was he, not her master, who put his life in danger to aid May. She is dependent on him. He explains to her that Osha's survival does not alter her goal. She still struck a contract that required killing a Wookiee. After that, they leave. Master Sol and many other Jedi examine video of May's earlier attack while they are back with the Jedi. They see her competence, yet she is guided by her gestures. She may not know her master's name, but she fears him anyway. Regarding whether this is a Splinter Force order or something more sinister, they speculate with several hypotheses. Some of the Jedi desire to ignore May or, in Sol's case, draw attention to her lack of competence. Jedi Master Vernstra Rawo believes that since May has previously slain two Jedi Masters, Indara and Torben, who were both on Brenock 16 years ago with Kelnacker and Sol, this is a more dangerous scenario. Vernstra believes that May had Jedi training, but she is reluctant to tell the High Council. The Senate would then need to be consulted. She wishes to keep things under wraps. As the conference comes to a close, Vernstra gives the order to remove Kelnacker from Kofar. Vernstra is angry that Sol never informed her 16 years ago that there was a chance May may have lived as Sol rushes after her. But in all honesty, Sol believed May was dead. It is his desire to be the one to introduce May. Vernstra worries that May is only the beginning of the Master's larger scheme. May would give up, according to Sol, if she received anything in exchange, and he has what she desires. Kimir mentions to May that she should be murdering these Jedi without using a weapon when they are back together. She was unable to accomplish it with Torben and Indara, though. It won't work if she doesn't use a weapon to kill Kelnacker. She asks what arrangement he has with her master, changing the topic. Kimir claims he merely owes her master, nothing more, not dear. You know how he is, Kimir responds. He gathers individuals. May inquires about Osha's behavior with Kimir in episode 2. Saying that Osha loved Sol, Kimir deftly sidesteps much of the subject. Both of them are making an effort to get particular information from the other, but neither is truly giving up. When they reach the edge of the forest, they go farther within in search of Kelnacker. Osha is about to depart Coruscant with her droid Pip until Sol stops her. He's hoping she'll come on the assignment. I'm hoping Osha asks if he wants her to become a Jedi once more. When she learns that he just needs her to locate May, her mood soothes. He doesn't want May to suffer harm, and he is aware that May's perspective shifted in episode 2 after learning that Osha was still alive. He thinks May is a wonderful person. Osha reiterates his belief that May is a killer. She's still a member of Osha's family, he responds. Osha agrees reluctantly to that. A group of people has been put together. Yord Fanda, Jetski, a few more Jedi, and a hairy Tinan tracker named Basil, a species from Star Wars Legends, rejoin them along with Osha and Sol. As soon as the Jedi arrive on Kofar, they begin searching with the people. Since Osha is only a citizen, Yord tries to take advantage of her by demanding that she give over her blaster. But before he can take her weapon, Jetski informs the gang that Kelnacker is in the jungle. After giving Basil a fragment of Kelnacker's ancient robe, the gang sets out to track down the Wookiee Jedi in the forest. While traveling, Osha stops to ask Yord, a friend from her time in the Jedi Order, for a favor. Since May is less talented and has left the Jedi Order, Osha wants Yord to stop May if she refuses to listen to her appeals. May has always been her wound, as Yord notes, and it's possible that Sol wants Osha to confront her own issues. In their pursuit for Kelnacker, Kimir and May are racing against the Jedi squad. Saying there's something rotten in the forest, Basil hesitates in the woods. Osha touches what he believes to be a tree. The huge, bug-like creature comes to life and launches an attack. Sol, however, cuts it down quickly. The Jedi continue because darkness is approaching. Osha and Jetski discuss death and how true Jedi, in Osha's words, should merely accept a person's transition into the larger force. With all the people she lost on her world, death always seemed unjust to her. We are not defined by what we lose, Jetski assures her. What we survive defines who we are. Jetski gives Osha comfort. Returning to the other party, Kimir is adamant that they reach Kelnacker before to dusk. May would want to take a little nap because she needs to fight a Wookiee shortly. She claims that this is all a lesson from her master rather than a test. The last instruction. Your last lesson is one you teach yourself, she continues. You won't need a weapon to kill a Jedi. Kelnacker would be betraying his principles if he battled May, since it is against the Jedi way to harm the helpless. She is ignorant of how to combat a Wookiee without a weapon, though. She cannot accomplish this, and her master will murder her if she doesn't. In order to keep her composure while she rests, Kimir offers to get her water. She starts to take in her surroundings and formulate a strategy while he's gone. As Kimir is fetching water and the Jedi are searching for their tracker, Basil, they both hear May's cries for assistance. As they all run in her direction, Kimir gets caught in her trap. May approaches him and tells him that because her sister is still alive, she doesn't need this test, this bargain, or anything else. She is going to assume the identity of the Jedi Order and Kelnacker. Their master will murder her, Kimir says. He needs to locate her first, she replies back. She then sets out to locate Kelnacker. Sol appears to detect something with the Jedi, but he doesn't share it. Osha wants to confront May now that she's beginning to sense the Force once more. She gains greater bravery from the Force. It's addressing Osha's history, not May, as Sol clarifies. In addition, he states that he must confront his own history and makes a commitment to provide an explanation as soon as they return May to their ship. When May gets to Kelnacker's house, Basil is there and lets the Jedi know that May has been located. May dashes into Kelnacker's house and discovers the Jedi Wookiee dead, his chest slashed by a still smoldering lightsaber. May discovers that her master has arrived as dusk draws in. When the Jedi show up, they insist that May emerge. But Sol feels that something is lurking behind them. A shadowy figure steps down behind Osha. May's master is approaching Osha gently. He ignites his crimson blade. The Jedi light their blades on fire. The master pulls the Jedi back, using the Force to propel Osha out of the way. The fourth episode, Day, concludes here.
Kofar and intercept May.
I need you.
Find him.
We have a tracker.
You always survive. You've survived.
You were wrong.
Civilian! You carry it. You trained May.
Jackie.
Jackie is a Jedi. It doesn't make sense.
I saw it once.
Keep moving!
You heard.
We go slow.
Coward!
Weak.
Evil. Osha.
Follow me.
Was that its name? You brought. Not very Jedi of you.
Do you want?
She exposed me. I do. Oh, look at you two.
This, my darkness. The Jedi do. Please, Osha.
For you, the Jedi got what they deserved. Invaded. They've prayed. I can help. Don't choose them again. Is each other now. Arrest you. This, he stole you from my.
Your sister.
You see the depth.
The Acolyte's 5th episode opens with Osha falling and waking up in the wilderness. She takes a step forward, grabs her pip, and finds herself facing a dead Jedi. She hears lightsabers slashing in the distance and sees Smilo Ren murdering several Jedi as she gets closer. Osha points her blaster at Smilo while standing far away. The Sith is scarcely fazed by the shot that lands on their arm. When Yord urges her to escape, she follows his instructions, and May takes advantage of the situation to grab Kelnacker's lightsaber inside the hut. After Smilo tosses his lightsaber at Osha and it boomerangs across the forest, Sol appears and swats it back, returning it to Smilo's possession. When Sol and Smilo finally meet, Sol appears to recognize something. He carries a Jedi weapon but is not a Jedi, he adds in reply. Leslie Headland, Harvey Weinstein's former PA, had another great exchange there. In another scene, May confronts Jetski, the Padawan, while Yord uses Basil to guide Osha back to the ship. The two argue, but Yord doesn't seem to care. He is confident in her ability to compete with the woman who murdered 2 Jedi Masters. Because May is so darn excellent, Jetski is able to capture her, but Yord and Osha lose Basil once more. They combat when Smilo Ren appears, and it goes without saying that she is superior than all the other Jedi put together. Smilo Ren runs off into the woods to pursue May, but instead of murdering her, she flees. Yord is told by Osha to put down his lightsaber because it attracts them, the creatures that were clinging to the tree in the previous episode, but no one seemed to care. Instead, she checks notes and uses her Pip's torch, which is much brighter, to look at the creatures at the top of the tree line. Osha orders Yord to run while the torch is still on, and the two sprint through the forest while Sol and Jetski after Smil Ren and get into a brawl. When Smilo Ren takes off his helmet and kills Jetski in the end, it's shocking, but not shocking at all, that Kimir is indeed the master. After hurling his cloak towards Sol, Kimir grabs May by the throat. He says he wants the ability to use power any way he pleases. Given that May has reneged on her agreement, he also desires a student. Yord returns and the Sith snaps his neck as they are conversing. Osha, on the other hand, stuns May and knocks her out. Before Sol gets his lightsaber, Kimir and Sol are interacting hand in hand. Until Osha intervenes, he has Kimir exactly where he wants him. He lets Kimir get up, only for Osha to place Pip on his back, revealing himself to the animals as they carry him off. But May comes back, astonished at first, and she knocks Sol down and stuns him while Sol and Osha are conversing. Facing each other, the two Amandlistenbergs find it difficult to show emotion. In episode 3, Osha says May set fire to the stone town, but it seems like we're not getting the whole story. Before making love, the two waver in their feelings. May concludes that's all they have and wants Osha to pick her. After May knocks Osha down, she tries to take out some of her fears by grabbing Yord's lightsaber and holding it very close to her own neck. While May poses as Osha, Kimir makes it through his encounter with the monsters. Naturally, as we discovered from Kimir in this same episode, Jedi are able to read minds. But instead of doing so, Sol simply has blind faith in May, assuming her to be Osha because of the way she is dressed. It appears like Basil is the only one who has a bad feeling. Near the end of the show, Kimir runs across Osha, who is clothed in May's clothing. Many people will enter this one and assume that because it has so much action and shiny lightsabers, it must be good. When you break it down, though, even the action is disorganized and rife with problems. It hurts to observe May's character motives in particular. We've seen her become fervently determined to murder the Jedi in 3 episodes, then change her mind and become submissive before trying to kill them once more. It's also absurd to watch Jetski, the Padawan, go up against May, who killed 2 Jedi Masters, and then use all of her might to battle Smilo Ren.
No! What have you done? Have you forgot your crimes? On the testing screen.
What do you want me to do?
Pushed. Someone knew we were coming. Osha.
The program helpfully labels this planet Unknown Planet. In episode 6 of the Acolyte, we are introduced to some beautiful tiny elephant bird animals on the coast of this unknown world, where the renegade dark side user Kimir has abducted the kidnapped ex-Jedi trainee Osha. The next week's action-packed episode, Night, was much needed after the previous week's intense tension and tragedy. With a more reflective episode that addresses the aftermath from last week and advances the plot for the last 2 episodes, Teach, Corrupt, does that. I believe the planet where Kimir, the stranger, had brought Osha looked like HCH to from The Last Jedi the moment she walked outdoors. The series does a great job of communicating that it is not HCH to by displaying the title card, Unknown Planet. Because it fits in nicely with Osha's confusion about her location and next steps, I love not knowing the planet's name even if a part of me wants to know it for canonical lore's sake. Kimir has generally been silly or ominously dark thus far. But in this episode, he comes across as simply an ordinary guy going about his everyday business, interacting to Osha in a casual, equal-minded manner. Osha and the audience find this disconcerting, particularly in light of the previous episode's events. Everything he says seems reasonable and appealing because of his grounded attitude. Everything that Kimir says sounds fantastic, including his views on achieving independence, the injustice of the Jedi's one-sided relationships, and the way he seems to give Osha more confidence in her own abilities than Sol and the other Jedi. All of what he says is true, and it's easy to understand how the evil side of the Force might entice practically anyone, Osha in particular. The issue is what Osha should do with her untapped potential and what Kimir intends to do with that freedom. The evil side can make very alluring promises that at first seem to be grounded in truth and good intentions, but in the end, they just serve as a pretext for doing harmful and self-serving actions. Still, Osha succumbs to Kimir's charms to the point that he ignites his crimson lightsaber and holds it to his neck, gaining Osha the opportunity to don his mask and take a step toward accepting his darker side. Since the first episode, when Osha liberated the prisoner and the prisoner fled, screaming wildly, there have been hints of her propensity for evil. Before Sol cleared his throat, he yelled that he felt something evil in her. Manny Jacinto's performance in this episode is matched by the equally remarkable performances of Amandla Stenberg and Lee Jung-jae. May struggles and makes a convincing impression as Osha, while Stenberg presents a troubled Osha. Both performances seem unique. Despite what transpired on Brenock 16 years ago, Lee's desperation after losing his Padawan Jetski Lon and the other Jedi on his squad is evident, and I still cry for him in practically every scene of this episode. I'm worried about what Sol will do next considering all that has transpired and his choice to go with a prisoner May before Vernstra Rawo and the other Jedi could get to him. He expressed remorse for allowing Kimir to drive him to such a low point. Given that Vernstra and fellow Jedi Mog just addressed their opinion that Sol may be the one responsible for the Jedi killings on Kofar, I'm concerned that Sol could be driven to a much darker place before this season finishes. Within the framework of this episode, as well as in terms of broader mythology and canon ties, the Vernstra sequences were interesting. Vernstra appears to be hiding something, given her personal interest in the events taking place. Given that Vernstra has been a member of the Jedi Order for more than a century and that Kimir revealed to Osha that he was a Jedi in the past, it is plausible that she taught him. Osha believes her former Padawan is at the center of everything. Maybe Vernstra even took some action to turn Kimir against his better judgment. Regarding canon and lore ties, there's the excitement of witnessing Vernstra's light whip in action, of course. Another thing I liked was that, since Vernstra and Sol stated in the first episode that they would not allow their political rivals to utilize Indara's murder against them, I've been curious about who those opponents are at this late stage in the High Republic's history. The mention of Senator Rayencourt, who despises the Jedi and is garnering support and spearheading a motion for an outside assessment of the Jedi Order, gives us a bit more context for this episode. The transparency of the Jedi Order with the Senate is also discussed. This transparency is a double-edged sword that Chancellor Palpatine would eventually use to bring about their doom. Vernstra's statement that she finds hyperspace travel disturbing is another interesting link. Vernstra is shown a hyperspace passage in the High Republic books, and she also sees visions of hyperspace that are crucial to the plot's resolution. It's interesting to note that a century into the history, Vernstra still finds hyperspace travel disturbing. This adds to the mystery surrounding how Vernstra's arc and her relationship with hyperspace will develop in the future books and episodes of the series.
You. Always one boy.
We must let them test the girls.
You are very young to think about.
Sick of eating Nuna legs. On here, and if we were going to find something...
Let it. Brenock is
Well, if only I knew.
of force energy.
Protected.
My Padawan.
He was disturbed.
Do not tell him answers to ease his... Why I have a Padawan and you...
Northlands yet. Meet us back at the camp.
When I can't find you,
Indara.
Girls, it's your room.
Night sisters don't raise younglings. Let
Prepare for a ceremony tonight. To me. See what I have seen.
It's an old platform elevator.
you to go in as a group. They'll take it as fine. And my Padawan, Torben.
The all-knowing Jedi were ignorant. Torben, you've traveled some natural desires you suppress. I can help you. I wish to return to Coruscant. What you ask me? Kneel.
We appreciate you. So, our Coven will never let markings are customary in many.
Then who is protecting this child?
Just need to take a sample of your blood.
This test, you must.
What you see?
A planet.
Before we entered your home,
Osha and I will lead the Coven. That said, everyone must know.
May was instructed to.
There are other. I want to be a Jedi.
blood samples. I've contacted.
Osha.
You saw what they were capable of. So
They've already made their decision, Sol.
No, exactly the same.
Split one consciousness into two.
We just need proof of a virgin.
Go and take a walk, maid. Now go.
And stop her. Good girl.
To go. She has chosen.
Their mother, but you are also.
Coven! I think they're.
We won't let it happen.
The Jedi have breached the fortress again.
I would die before I let the Jedi take my.
Take another.
To be raised by an institution.
Mama!
They're locked inside.
My mind is fortified.
What have you done? Osha.
We're going home.
I had to make a choice.
The counsel, the truth.
I must face
At the mercy of the count.
fire.
The dark mystery of what transpired between the Jedi and Mother Anasaya's Coven of Witches was ultimately resolved in the Acolyte Episode 7. In the Acolyte Episode 7, Choice, we go back to the events of Episode 3, Destiny, but this time we see things from the viewpoint of the 4 Jedi who visited May and Osha's house and permanently altered their lives. 16 Tears earlier appears beneath a picture of Brenock as the show begins. In a forest, we discover Padawan Torben, Dean Charles Chapman, Jedi Knight Sol, Lee Jung Jae and Kelnaka, Junas Suotamo, and Master Indara, Carrie Ann Moss employing tools to carry out scientific assessments of the plant life of Brenock. They labor in quiet up until Kelnaka yells at the sky, at which point thunderclaps can be heard. The Jedi set up camp around a small fire. Indara tells her Padawan not to turn down a Wookiee's meal, even though Torben is having problems finishing it hot. Torben is complaining that after 7 weeks on Brenock, the crew has not seen any indications of a civilization, and he is ready to return to Coruscant. Indara cautions her Padawan not to focus on unfavorable emotions like worry. Torben responds that he needs motivation and that their goal is important. Sol retorts that they are searching for vergence, which is a singular concentration of force energy surrounding a single spot. If they can demonstrate that the vergence gave rise to life on Brenock, which had been declared dead after the great hyperspace disaster event a century prior, which served as the catalyst for the Star Wars High Republic storyline, that would be a pretty significant discovery. Sol refers to this mission as honorable. The Jedi pick up their studies the next day. Indara draws Sol aside to talk about the expedition and Torben. Indara cautions Sol not to let his own desire to prove the vergence, lifelink cloud his judgment because Torben is not the only one who has trouble controlling his emotions. She makes the point that because she understands this distinction, she is prepared for a Padawan whereas Sol is not. Sol is dispatched to investigate the undiscovered Northlands when the Jedi break off. Sol discovers a young Osha and May utilizing their force powers on some butterfly creatures after taking a speeder bike out of the area, as shown at the introduction of Episode 3. Unable to get in touch with Indara, Sol pursues the girls back to the Witch Coven stronghold and Mother Coral, Margarita Levieva. After breaking inside the fortress, Sol surprises Coral and Anasaya by seeing Mother Anasaya, Jodie Turner-Smith teaching Osha and May how to use force during battle drills. Outside the fortress, Sol discovers a coven of witches getting ready for the ascension ceremony that we seen Osha and May undergo. Sol makes his getaway and returns with his discoveries to Indara and the other Jedi. Torben becomes concerned that they may be facing the Night Sisters as he surmises that the group is a coven of witches. While Indara cautions against drawing hasty judgments, Sol argues that he witnessed what appear to be ceremonial preparations and that the girls could be in danger of being used. Indara gives in when Sol begs her to accompany him back to the coven so she may make her own judgment. When the Jedi reach the stronghold of the Coven, which Torben identifies as an abandoned mining facility, Indara wants to enter by herself, but Sol is concerned by the amount of witches, more than 50. Though Indara perceives it as a group of 50 women and 2 kids who are suspicious of strangers, she again gives in when Sol demands that they enter as a team. Mother Anasaya, Coral, and the witches are waiting for the Jedi when they reach the Coven stronghold, another rerun of Episode 3. This time, Anasaya utilizes her abilities to infiltrate and take control of Torben, turning his frustrations and anxieties over the mission on Brenock against him. We get to peek inside his head. It is revealed that Torben voluntarily surrendered to Anasaya, akin to succumbing to the dark side's allure, in return for returning to Coruscant. When Osha says she wants to take a Jedi exam, Indara pushes Anasaya to comply with a reasonable request, and she succeeds in getting it approved. After Torben is freed, the Jedi leave. Back on board, Indara reveals in a chat that Sol staged the tests to buy some more time, and she intends to speak with the Jedi Council about what to do next. Although Sol acknowledges that he has a connection to Osha and wants to put her to the test, Indara brushes this off, saying that Osha will never have a true chance to become a Jedi since the females are too old and the Coven is too closed up. Sol is driven to act, despite Inadara's repeated warnings against it, by the ramifications of the ascension, May being marked and Osha not being marked. When Osha and May from the Coven come, Torben is in deep meditation. He draws blood from May and gives it to Sol and Indara. May breezes through the exam out of impatience, but Sol catches her giving false information. Indara queries May about her request to return to her family and the Coven's actions the previous evening when the Jedi showed up. After Indara compliments May on her marking, she tries to explain ascension, but falters when asked what the ceremony's ultimate goal is. Mother Anasea's words, which the Jedi interpret more literally than figuratively, that each person must walk through fear and be sacrificed to their destiny, are repeated by May. When Sol asks for a fresh strategy for Osha, Indara again gives in. Osha is motivated by Sol's account of joining the Jedi, and Inadara becomes concerned when Osha succeeds on the exam. Once Osha leaves, Indara asks Torben to draw blood, and she informs them that she will meet them at their campsite to provide the results and more guidance from the Jedi Council. Sol becomes agitated while waiting at the campground. When Indara does eventually return, it's with terrible news. The Council has said no. Particularly offended by the rejection are Sol and Torben, the latter of whom calls the witches dangerous and becomes agitated when it is suggested that they are still unable to return to Coruscant. Since he feels a personal connection to Indara, Sol stands up against the choice, but she cautions him once more not to tamper with someone else's fate. When Torben receives the blood test results back, he discovers that the twins have identical symbionts, which identify them as artificially manufactured, in addition to having a remarkably high M count. A Vergence was tapped for the force strength needed to divide one mind into two, according to Sol and Inadara's theory. This would be a stunning achievement. Torben rides off on a speeder bike to pick up Osha and May after realizing that their presence could be his ticket home. Kelnacker is persuaded to accompany Indara on the main ship as she launches Sol on a chase. May, Osha, Mother Anasea, and Coral argue about Osha's choice to join the Jedi while Torben makes his way towards the Coven. Osha is granted her request by Anasea with compassion, but Coral pulls May away and incites her to fight against her sister. As Anasea turns to face the Coven and says she's putting motherhood above her leadership duty, May disables the stronghold's entrance and witches devoted to Coral assist in getting ready to battle the Jedi. Coral and Anasea have a last disagreement over whether to respond violently or not. May seals Osha in her chamber. Indara flies the ship over the Coven and throws Kelnacker in. May starts the fire and attempts to put it out right after, but it's too late. When Sol and Torben get there, the witches are already there. Coral and Anasea confront them, but Sol says he has good intentions. When he inquires about the twins' creation, Anasea becomes enraged, telling Coral that the Jedi's purportedly good intentions would eventually destroy them. May hurries outside to plead for assistance with the fire and is misidentified as Osha as Torben grabs his blade. Anasea yells, "No," and transforms into a dark mist, a metamorphosis that also begins to happen to May, as Coral and Torben begin to assault each other. In a panic, Sol plunges his lightsaber into the cloud, impaling Anasea, who later admits that she was only attempting to defuse the situation and was about to release Osha. The witches strike as Coral cries for May to flee after Anasea dies. Coral spars with Sol, who declines to retaliate. Torben holds his own against a group of energy bow-wielding archers. The Coven fortress erupts due to the fire. Coral transforms into mist and disappears along with the archers. Speaking, Coral informs Sol and Torben that it was a mistake to bring him to the castle. Although Torben maintains that his mind is prepared to oppose, it seems that Coral is speaking about Kelnacker, who is under the influence of a coven of witches reciting a spell. Torben suffers severe injuries from Kelnacker's attack, including facial scarring and left eye malformation. The Wookiee almost chokes Sol, but Indara intervenes, defeating Kelnacker and utilizing the Force to drive the witches from his mind. As the fortress erupts into flames, Indara tells Sol to get the twins and leaves the witches comatose. After seeing that the ladies are on opposing sides of a crumbling catwalk, Sol decides to use his Force abilities to save Osha rather than May. The Jedi spacecraft is returning to Coruscant. Torben is embarrassed, but Sol is adamant about his decision. After arguing and nearly exchanging punches, Indara and Sol diffuse their tension. According to Indara, May caused the fire and the Coven was destroyed, with the exception of Osha. This is what they will report to the Jedi Council. Though Indara won't let Sol off the hook too easily, Sol wants to reveal the truth since doing so would most likely prevent Osha from becoming a Jedi, and that dream is all that remains of her. Indara forces Sol to consider the reasons behind his decision. Sol starts telling Osha the lie that will define him for the next 16 years as soon as he wakes up.
Did.
I feel for the...
And everyone was lost.
Your plan.
He says,
Our powerful emotions. Sleep deprivation headpiece.
May is something in her hand.
She can kill with no weapon. With what ship? And see who gets to her first.
Why?
Better improve it.
Then why didn't you tell Osha?
You locked everyone in.
They got a hyperdrive.
Senator Raincourt's here to see.
How is your stomach?
It's my head.
Running a murder investigation without reporting.
Jedi.
There are multiple. Good. He is mine. Lubble.
We don't control the...
And when, not if that happens. Can't imagine a galaxy without the Jedi.
Is that all, Senator?
So the Drellic. He may invite you to a Senate.
Did I give you the impression that I was a fair person? Osha!
I can do.
All the way.
Not if she gets you first.
All of this death. Do this. This level of destruction, hatred of you, my grief. How could he teach you to control?
Now you pay for what you've done.
Your anger.
I want to pay for his crimes.
You are not dead. But if I leave, she used the Force.
See, very few have been there.
I... Acting you. It was the in this way. Train.
They never so many times. But because I look.
You
Follow me. To leave. I know a way out. Trust me.
You too.
So can the Jedi.
They'll have to...
Even after every... Remove any trace of you.
I can't lose you again. Ernest too. You give.
On any weapons that you have, and surrender.
They say I'm seeing a man. I run away.
It's from when you were 8 years old. 16, there were many casualties. A rogue Jedi named... Speaking on behalf of... I can assure you, while this crime, long it twisted his mind. But I need your help.
The stranger, Kimir, Manny Jacinto discovers Osha, a Mandlastenberg living in a tunnel and has his cortosis helmet on her head as the episode begins. When Osha begins to pant for oxygen, Kimir tries to go close to her and take off the helmet, only to discover that Osha has taken over his thoughts in the same manner that Mother Anastasia previously did for Torben. To reach the helmet and ultimately remove it off Osha, Kimir must struggle against the darkness that Osha draws him into and resist the Force's grasp on his body. Shaken, Osha claims to have seen a vision of her twin sister May murdering Jedi Master Sol, Li Jung-jae with a lightsaber in her hand but not really using it to bring him to his death. The vision becomes apparent to Kimir as a potential near future in which May fulfills her role as his acolyte. Osha responds that she still has the power to stop May and that this future isn't set in stone just yet. With the only ship to get to May, Kimir wonders how she can stop her, making it obvious that he plans to find her. Kimir accepts Osha's alliance proposal, saying they may go together to find May and observe which of them she chooses to pay attention to. 16 years after Sol told May the truth about what had happened on her home planet Brenock, she is still restrained on Sol's spacecraft. After bringing him back to Brenock, Sol says he will summon Master Vernstra Rawo, Rebecca Henderson to view evidence of the Force Virgins that Brenock is said to possess. Sol uses May and Osha as unquestionable examples of how the Force may be used to produce life on Brenock. May strikes up a debate, using Pip the droid's head as a lockpick on her bindings, but then responds that Sol's proof wouldn't excuse his murder of Mother Anastasia. May questions why Sol never told Osha the truth if he felt so certain in his justification for doing all of this. Sol responds that May started the fire that eventually destroyed the Coven and that murdering Anastasia was an accident. May is adamant that Sol started the whole thing with the Jedi's invasion of her house, which ultimately led to its destruction. With tears in his eyes, Sol admits that his true sorrow stems from his failure to save Osha and May when he had the opportunity. He tries to convince May that Osha isn't actually her sister or twin, but May breaks free and zaps Sol with Pip, leaving him dumbfounded. May escapes via the ship, with Basil following closely behind, as Sol gets well and pursues. May tells Sol, "See you in hell, Jedi," as Pip guides her to an escape pod, where she buckles in, dons a pilot's helmet, and takes off in the direction of Brenock's surface. Sol rushes into his ship's cockpit and follows May all the way to Brenock's surface. Thinking Sol's spacecraft is too enormous to follow, May guns the throttle and sends Sol on a pursuit into the cold ring around one of Brenock's moons. Even yet, Basil seems worried as freezing crystals start to strike the spacecraft and Sol pursues. Basil disconnects several cables within the spacecraft and disables the accelerator as Sol tries to speed. May's spacecraft loses direction and spins out of the ice ring, hitting hard on the surface of Brenock, while Sol's ship stalls. Jedi Mog, Harry Trevaldwyn approaches Rawo at the Jedi Temple on Coruscant and tells her that Senator Rayencourt, David Harewood, is there and would want to talk with her. The fact that Rayencourt has come to sabotage Rawo and was allowed entry by Jedi security astounds and irritates her at the same time. Inside Rawo's rooms, Rayencourt is waiting to find out how she is doing following her hyperspace journeys, which he knows cause her illness. Rawo corrects the Senator's concern over her stomach, stating that she is well and that hyperspace travel only affects her head. When Rawo questions Rayencourt about why he has come in person, he reveals that he has heard that Rawo is looking into a Jedi murder without reporting it to the Senate or Jedi Council. Rawo responds that this is an internal matter that she is handling on her own, within her legal authority to report only more serious threats. Rayencourt urges Rawo to explain why there isn't a bigger threat at play, and she makes the mistake of admitting there have been other Jedi killings while also saying she's almost done with the murderer. Rayencourt inquires as to whether the suspect is a Jedi, but Rawo refuses to respond and begins to walk away. Getting personal, Rayencourt claims he is aware that she dislikes him and his demands for a re-examination of the Jedi Order, which he regards as a vast, unbridled force masquerading as a religion, and that is untrue and self-deluded in its claims that Jedi are superior Zen master monks. Rayencourt believes that before a Jedi loses their cool and turns rogue, posing a serious threat that could be impossible for other Jedi to neutralize, it's only a matter of time and numbers. According to Rayencourt, perceptions of the Jedi need to be lowered from their current status as legendary heroes to that of the broken organization that they actually are. After listening, Rawo shows the Senator where to go by opening the door with her Force powers. After telling Rawo that an official tribunal is being sent to examine the murder probe, Rayencourt departs. Donning black cloaks, Osha and Kimir proceed to the narrow stretch of land where Kimir's ship is berthed. Kimir inquires along the route as to their destination, but Osha won't say since she fears losing her power. Osha criticizes Kimir for acting harsh when he makes agreements with her and May and keeps his end of the bargain. Osha informs Kimir that she is not May, and he accepts as May readily accepted his offer when he attempts to get her to become his pupil once more. A strange-looking monster that has been lurking in Kimir's tunnel lair emerges to watch the two leave as they board the ship and take off. When Sol eventually touches down on Brenock, he stops to gaze for a while before turning back on his ship's transponder. He steps outdoors and follows May, using his force sense to find her. Basil watches Sol embark on the ship. Rawo is attempting to make a covert call to an unidentified person on Coruscant, implying that she is aware he is unavailable but that she must talk with him still because of an urgent matter. The representative answering the phone assures her that her request will be forwarded to the appropriate person. Mog walks in and tells about the discovery of Sol's spacecraft on Brenock. A group of Jedi Knights has secretly assembled and Rawo has prepped her ship to finally impose a resolution on the dispute. Kimir and Osha learn that May and Sol have already defeated them on Brenock when they arrive in the meantime. As Sol makes his way back to the Coven's debris, he notices Kimir's ship approaching and hears flashes of the terrible night he killed Anasea. When Osha and Kimir arrive at the Coven stronghold's entrance, Osha says that the only way inside is via hacking the door controls. Kimir questions if Osha is accurate, and when he turns around, Osha is gone. After navigating the debris to reach the catwalk, where he freed Osha and let May to fall, May scales the edge of the catwalk to enter the fortress. May hears Sol shouting her name, so she runs away from him. When she walks into the room she used to share with her mother and sister, she is overcome with nostalgia. Osha goes outside and operates the door controls before going inside. Kimir ambushes Sol as he is passing down a dimly lit hallway. Expressing gratitude to Sol for assisting him in finding May, Kimir remarks that the two of them form a great team. The two fighters start their clash, and after a few rounds of fighting styles, they find themselves back in the courtyard where Sol murdered Anasea. Sol threatens to destroy Kimir if necessary, to which Kimir responds that May might yet kill Sol before that happens. They engaged in more fighting, during which Kimir attempts to use force holds to bring down Sol with helicopter swords while hurling both his lightsaber and saber dagger at him. Sol switches off his saber and employs a unique force fu move to knock the stranger and the swords back, but Kimir quickly retrieves his blades, slaps them back into a longsword, and launches another attack. May is furious with her sister for all the deaths and mayhem she brought about when Osha discovers her in their former bedroom. May begs Osha to accept responsibility, telling him that Sol never held May responsible for the Coven's demise. Instead, Osha tries to reconcile May's actions with the idea that it is still possible to love someone who has done wrong. Osha's own mixture of sadness and wrath ultimately plagued her and prevented her from accepting the Jedi ways, as May had desired. May reveals that Sol was the one who killed Anastasia, stating that Osha could never be a Jedi if her instructor was the same person who killed her mother. When Osha loses it and strikes May, they engage in a fierce martial arts duel in which May holds her own. When Osha discovers that May has hacked Pip, she becomes even more enraged and squirts Osha in the face with oil. When Sol smugly informs the stranger that Vernstra's ship is approaching for a landing and that he would soon face justice, Kimir confidently replies that the Jedi are not on his side. We see clips of May versus Osha and Sol versus the stranger in succession. Osha and May both see the arrival of the Jedi ship, which May takes advantage of to disappear from the room. After exchanging sabers, Sol ultimately strikes Kimir, splitting his hilt in half. When the villain takes off his helmet to confront Sol directly, Sol is holding Kimir at the point of his saber, considering killing him. When May unexpectedly shows there, she surprises Sol by taking away his saber. She then throws the weapon upon a nearby rock, cracking it apart to reveal the blue kyber gem within. Kimir tries to walk May through the last test, which involves taking down Sol without using a weapon, but May declines, preferring to see Sol admit before the Jedi Council and Senate and go to trial for her mother's murder. After doubling down on his defenses, Sol eventually admits that Osha and May are actually one soul divided into two bodies as a result of Anastasia's special use of the Force Vergence on Brenock. Kimir pays close attention as Sol tries to explain to May how her presence and the Vergence on Brenock are evidence of higher Force strength that may be used. May deduces that Sol killed Mother Anastasia out of fear after realizing her strength, and Sol eventually and heavily confesses to killing Anastasia. Having heard Sol's confession, Osha emerges from the shadows and takes up Sol's lightsaber. When Osha questions whether it's true and why she was misled, Sol responds by explaining that they covered things up on Brenock because they needed Osha and May to demonstrate the Vergence's power, that revealing Osha's true origin would have made her a test subject for the Jedi and Republic, and that he wanted to support her in realizing her unattainable goal of becoming a Jedi. As Sol attempts to confess his love for her, Osha ultimately loses it and forces him to choke him in mid-sentence. Before forcing him to stop talking and causing her blue kyber crystal to begin to bleed crimson in her palm, Osha orders Sol to stop talking. Sol drops to his knees, sobbing, and mumbles, "It's okay," before she kills him. Traumatized, Osha drops to her knees, and Kimir attempts to soothe her by placing his hand on her shoulder. Osha shouts and swings Sol's blade furiously at Kimir, who easily parries her attacks. The blue light on the saber suddenly flickers and bursts into a vibrant crimson hue. May and Osha gaze in amazement and shock at the sword. When Vernstra's and her Jedi team get off the ship, Kimir is not wearing his cortosis helmet to keep his thoughts hidden. Thus Rawo uses Force Sense to instantly identify Kimir as the former Padawan she had assumed was dead. When Kimir senses that Rawo is aware of him, he immediately puts on his helmet again and leaves Osha and May's side. Basil dashes off of Sol's ship to join him, and Rawo instructs Morg and the other Jedi to follow her as she knows where to go. Osha is startled out of her daze by May, who informs her that they must leave right immediately and that May knows how to do it. Rawo uses her Force powers to pry open the fortress door as the other Jedi approach it, and she also reads all the echoes in the area. As they get at the catwalk where Osha fell, May asks her sister to put her confidence in her. They descend the cliff and reach a secret passageway carved out of the rock wall, the same passageway that 16 years before had drawn May in as she was falling and saved her from the Coven's flames. When Rawo's squad reaches the main courtyard of the Coven, she hears the echoes of everything that transpired that night, including the witches and her 4 Jedi colleagues, Sol, Torben, Kelnaka, and Indara. This was the night the Coven was destroyed. After discovering Sol's body, Rawo dispatches Basil and the Jedi Knights to set up a cordon around the murder site and hunt down the fugitive assailant or assailants. From a lofty vantage point overlooking the courtyard, the stranger is observing Rawo as he kneels over Sol's body and murmurs something. Rawo looks up, sensing the stranger's presence, but he's already disappeared. As they emerge from the tunnel and enter the woodland, Osha asks May what her next course of action should have been all those years ago. When May and Osha reach the bunter tree they used to play beneath, Basil detects May's smell and begins guiding the Jedi after her. May then admits that she waited for her sister for a while after the Coven burned. The two sisters break down in tears and repeat their childhood rhyme about being two in one, apologizing to each other for everything, including the fire. As Kimir approaches them stealthily, he uses the Force to seize Osha's lightsaber and informs the girls that the Jedi will soon find him as well. Osha feels that the Jedi must make up for what Sol did to Anastasia, therefore she wants to confess to them. However, May and Kimir reassure her that this is foolish and that the Jedi would see her as an adversary who may destroy her, just like they did Anastasia. May asks her sister what she wants because Osha is at a loss for what to do. If May is released from her contract, Osha decides to train on the dark side and become Kimir's disciple. Kimir offers to use his Force powers to mind-wipe May, erasing all memories of him and Osha, as the Jedi squad approaches. May gives her approval, but Osha is unable to follow through until May instructs her sister to follow her destiny once more without interference. Kimir returns Osha's lightsaber and wants to have a last embrace with her sister before promising to see her again in the future. Osha reaches out her hand to him. They recite their nursery rhyme once more, but midway through, May motions for Kimir to clear her head, and he complies. May finds it difficult to complete the rhyme, and Osha grins, satisfied that the task is completed. When the Jedi arrive to the bunter tree, May is by herself and appears to be lost and confused. May is hauled before the Jedi temple on Coruscant, Vernstra Rawo. When Rawo questions May, she genuinely doesn't remember anything save the night of the Coven fire and Sol killing Anastasia. She is aware of the urge to find someone, but she is unable to identify who it is. Rawo tells May that, despite being an otherwise kind and honorable Jedi, Sol is the guy from her recollection and that he killed May's mother. Rawo presents that testimony regarding Sol before the tribunal that Senator Rayencourt established in a series of woven montages. Rawo portrays Sol and his allies as bad apples, who wronged Brenock, and Sol is the assassin who murdered his 3 accomplices as well as other Jedi in order to hide his larger crime. Looking again at the moment where Rawo is kneeling over Sol's body on Brenock, one can see that she apologized to him deeply in a whisper, even though she knew what she was about to do to his reputation and legacy. Rayencourt advocates for an extensive external examination of the Jedi Order, to which Rawo responds that Sol is viewed by the High Council as a renegade Jedi, driven by remorse to return to his murder scene and commit suicide. In a different flashback, Rawo gives Sol a Jedi burial pyre on a river, where his corpse is burned to remove any trace of his true demise. As May is relating the narrative, the montages return to Rawo, where the Jedi Master is persuading herself of its veracity. When Rawo informs May that Sol was corrupted by her sister's self-centered devotion, she forgets one important element, leaving May wondering if she even had a sister at all. Rawo asks May whether she feels something when she hears the word Osha, but she doesn't. If May can assist the Order first, Rawo reminds May that the Jedi failed her and that they must set things right. When May asks what needs to be done, Rawo says she needs her assistance in finding one of her former students who became wicked. Returning to Kimir's secret planet refuge, he and Osha stand clutching the lightsaber and gazing out to sea at the setting sun between rugged islands in the distance. A dramatic overture is playing while they do so. Before Vernstra Rawo enters a private area at the Jedi Temple and apologizes for intruding, the screen goes blank. Master Yoda's back is shown when the camera pans down. Rawo informs Yoda that they have some things to talk about.
I know a way out.